In the shadow of the American Revolution, where the muskets of citizen soldiers echoed through the valleys of a nascent nation, a single sentence was etched into the Bill of Rights, forever altering the trajectory of American society. Over 2 centuries later, that same sentence has become a lightning rod for one of the most polarizing debates in the United States. The right to bear arms, as enshrined in the Second Amendment, was a beacon of freedom in the 18th century, but does it still serve its intended purpose in our modern world? Consider a scenario: a suburban elementary school, its halls once echoing with the innocent laughter of children, now eerily silent as they huddle in lockdown drills. Picture a bustling city square, where a single gunshot can turn a peaceful afternoon into a scene of chaos. These are the haunting realities of contemporary America, a far cry from the days when the threat was a distant British army, not a fellow citizen. What if the very amendment that was designed to protect the people has instead become a conduit for their greatest fears? What if the evolution of firearms has outpaced the legislation meant to regulate them? The questions hang in the air, demanding scrutiny and introspection. Join me as we unravel the historical context, dissect the technological advancements, and explore the staggering impact of gun violence on public health and safety. Together, we'll examine why the right to bear arms may no longer be the shield of liberty it once was, but rather a relic in dire need of reconsideration. The right to bear arms, an outdated constitutional right, the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, ratified in 1791, states, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed." This right, enshrined over 2 centuries ago, was born out of a historical context vastly different from today's society. In the intervening years, the socio-political landscape, technological advancements, and the nature of threats to personal and national security have changed dramatically. The right to bear arms, as interpreted and implemented today, has become increasingly outdated, creating more harm than good. Here are several arguments to support the position that the Second Amendment, in its current form, is no longer suitable for modern America. Historical context and original intent. The Second Amendment was crafted in an era when the fledgling United States faced existential threats from both external forces and internal dissension. The framers of the Constitution were deeply influenced by their recent experience with the Revolutionary War, where militias played a crucial role in achieving independence from British rule. At that time, a well-regulated militia was essential for the security of the new nation, and the concept of a standing army was viewed with suspicion, associated with tyranny and oppression. However, the contemporary United States is vastly different. The country now boasts the most powerful and technologically advanced military in the world, rendering the original necessity of a citizen militia obsolete. The argument that an armed populace is necessary to defend against governmental tyranny is weakened by the existence of democratic institutions, a professional military, and law enforcement agencies designed to uphold the Constitution and protect citizens' rights. Technological advancements in firearms. The firearms available in the late 18th century were muskets and flintlock pistols, which were slow to load, inaccurate, and had a limited range. In contrast, modern firearms are exponentially more lethal. Semi-automatic and automatic weapons, capable of discharging multiple rounds in a matter of seconds, can cause mass casualties in moments. This technological leap has far-reaching implications that the framers could not have anticipated. The proliferation of high-capacity, rapid-fire weapons has contributed to an epidemic of gun violence in the United States. Mass shootings, which were virtually non-existent in the 18th and 19th centuries, have become a grim hallmark of American society. The availability of such weaponry poses a significant threat to public safety and has transformed the right to bear arms into a public health crisis. Public safety and health. The United States experiences an alarmingly high rate of gun-related deaths compared to other developed nations. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, there are tens of thousands of gun-related deaths annually, including homicides, suicides, and accidental shootings. This toll is a stark indication that the right to bear arms, as currently interpreted, exacts an unacceptable cost on society. In addition to the physical toll, the psychological impact on communities is profound. The fear of gun violence affects daily life, with active shooter drills becoming commonplace in schools, businesses, and public spaces. The pervasive threat of gun violence undermines the sense of security that is fundamental to a functioning society. Ineffectiveness of the Second Amendment in ensuring security. Proponents of the Second Amendment often argue that an armed populace deters crime. However, empirical evidence does not support this claim. Studies have shown that higher rates of gun ownership correlate with increased incidences of gun violence, rather than decreased crime rates. The presence of more guns tends to escalate conflicts rather than resolve them peacefully. Moreover, the argument that civilians need firearms for self-defense is increasingly tenuous in a society with established law enforcement agencies. While the right to self-defense is unquestionable, the proliferation of firearms often leads to tragic outcomes, including accidental shootings and escalations of minor altercations into deadly encounters. International comparisons and lessons. When examining gun control policies and their effectiveness, it is instructive to look at other developed nations. Countries like Australia, the United Kingdom, and Japan have implemented stringent gun control measures and have seen significant reductions in gun-related deaths. These nations have demonstrated that strict regulation of firearms does not undermine personal freedoms but rather enhances public safety and social stability. Australia's experience is particularly illustrative. Following the Port Arthur massacre in 1996, the Australian government enacted comprehensive gun control reforms, including a gun buyback program. The results were striking: a dramatic decrease in gun-related homicides and suicides, and no subsequent mass shootings. This example underscores that effective gun control measures can be enacted without infringing on civil liberties. Constitutional evolution and precedent. The U.S. Constitution is a living document, designed to be amended and interpreted in response to changing circumstances. Throughout history, amendments and judicial interpretations have adapted the Constitution to reflect evolving societal values and norms. The abolition of slavery, 13th Amendment, the extension of voting rights to women, 19th Amendment, and the civil rights movement's impact on jurisprudence are all testament to this adaptability. Re-evaluating the Second Amendment in light of contemporary realities does not mean abandoning constitutional principles but rather upholding the intent of promoting a more perfect union and ensuring the safety and well-being of all citizens. It is within this framework that a re-examination of the right to bear arms should occur, balancing individual rights with collective security. The role of advocacy and political will. The influence of the gun lobby, particularly organizations like the National Rifle Association, NRA, has played a significant role in shaping gun policy and public opinion in the United States. The lobbying efforts have often stymied legislative attempts to introduce reasonable gun control measures, despite widespread public support for such reforms. Overcoming this political inertia requires a concerted effort by advocates, policymakers, and citizens committed to reducing gun violence and promoting public safety. Public opinion polls consistently show that a majority of Americans support measures such as universal background checks, restrictions on assault weapons, and limitations on high-capacity magazines. Harnessing this public support into effective legislative action is crucial for modernizing the interpretation of the Second Amendment. Balancing rights and responsibilities. The right to bear arms, like all rights, must be balanced with responsibilities. The framers of the Constitution recognized that freedoms must coexist with laws designed to protect the common good. Just as free speech is subject to limitations to prevent harm, e.g., shouting, "Fire," in a crowded theater, the right to bear arms must be subject to reasonable regulations to ensure public safety. Ensuring that firearms are kept out of the hands of those who pose a danger to themselves or others, requiring training and licensing for gun ownership, and implementing robust background checks are all measures that respect the right to bear arms while addressing the pressing need for public safety. Moving forward. A path to modernization. The modernization of the Second Amendment does not necessitate its repeal but rather a reinterpretation and regulation that align with contemporary realities. This approach respects the historical significance of the right while addressing the urgent need to reduce gun violence and enhance public safety. To achieve this, several steps can be taken. Strengthen background checks. Implement universal background checks to ensure that firearms do not fall into the hands of individuals with a history of violence or mental illness. Ban assault weapons. Prohibit the sale and possession of military-style assault weapons and high-capacity magazines that are designed for mass casualties. Mandatory training and licensing. Require comprehensive training and licensing for all gun owners to ensure responsible ownership and use of firearms. Red flag laws. Enact and enforce red flag laws that allow for the temporary removal of firearms from individuals deemed to pose a risk to themselves or others. Research and data collection. Invest in research on gun violence and its prevention to inform evidence-based policy decisions. Conclusion. The right to bear arms, as articulated in the Second Amendment, served a critical purpose in the historical context of the late 18th century. However, in today's society, the unrestricted access to firearms poses significant risks to public health and safety. By re-evaluating and modernizing this constitutional right, we can better align it with contemporary realities, ensuring that it serves the collective good while respecting individual freedoms. The path forward involves a balanced approach that prioritizes public safety, embraces reasonable regulation, and upholds the principles of a democratic society.